All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling LLMs.
LLMs.
You know, those large language models that are
Yeah.
making headlines, popping up everywhere. We're going to break down
Everywhere you look.
how they work, how they're trained,
Yeah.
what makes them tick.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
I've got an expert here who can really shed some light
Well, I'll do my best.
on these intricate systems. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I got to ask,
Yeah.
when you picture an LLM, like generating text or
Right.
tackling a complex task, what's the thing
Uh,
that really blows your mind about that process?
honestly, for me, it's the sheer scale of it.
Yeah,
The learning process.
yeah,
You know, imagine this model sifting through mountains of data,
yeah.
finding patterns, refining its understanding of language. It's just a remarkable feat
Yeah,
of computation.
It is. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And speaking of learning, one of the key processes in LLM development is this thing called fine-tuning.
Fine-tune.
It sounds like taking a student who already knows the basics
Yeah.
and then giving them kind of like specialized training.
Specialized training, exactly.
Is that a fair comparison?
That's a great analogy, yeah.
Okay.
Think of it this way. You have an LLM. It's already been trained on this massive data set. It's got this broad understanding of language.
Yeah.
But to make it excel at a specific task, you need to fine-tune it,
Oh, okay.
like writing different creative content or
Mm.
translating languages, things like that.
So you're taking a generalist and turning them into a specialist.
Exactly.
Uh-oh.
And this is where things get really interesting because the way you fine-tune
Yeah.
really depends on what you want the LLM to do.
Right.
You know, if you're training it for instruction-based tasks,
Like following commands.
following commands, yeah. You'd use a different approach than if you were training it for
Mhm.
open-ended text generation, like
Like writing a story.
writing a story, yeah.
So I'm starting to see how crucial that initial
Oh, absolutely.
data pre-processing step is.
Yeah.
Almost like choosing the right ingredients
Yeah,
and prepping them carefully before you even start cooking.
that's a good way to put it.
Our source material really emphasizes that this pre-processing
Yeah,
needs to align with the type of text generation you're going for.
right.
But why is that so important?
Well,
What impact does that actually have?
it all comes down to data quality.
Okay.
Remember that old saying, garbage in, garbage out?
Oh, yeah.
If you feed the LLM noisy or inaccurate
Right.
or poorly formatted data,
Yeah.
you'll end up with a model that just produces unreliable
Okay.
or low-quality outputs, maybe even hallucinations.
So even with all this advanced technology,
Yeah,
you're still at the mercy of bad data.
absolutely.
Wow.
You know, and the thing is, even with these large data sets,
Yeah.
you can't assume everything's perfect.
Right.
One technique our source mentions is actually manually
Oh,
evaluating a portion of the data
okay.
for quality control. Yeah. It might seem tedious,
Yeah.
but it's a crucial step to ensure you're
Makes sense.
building on a solid foundation.
That's a really good point. Quality over quantity, even in the world of big data.
Yeah.
Now, something that really surprised me was this concept
Yeah.
of synthetic data. I mean, using data that's artificially created
Right.
to train these models. How does that even work?
It's a fascinating approach.
Yeah.
So synthetic data is often generated
Okay.
by larger, more mature LLMs.
So like,
Think of it like
Aye.
a senior chef
okay.
creating practice dishes for a junior chef to learn from.
So
You know, they can control the complexity,
interesting.
introduce specific challenges, and tailor the experience to accelerate that learning process.
So it's like a controlled environment where the LLM
Exactly.
can hone its skills without the messiness.
Without all the noise and the mess of
Yeah.
real-world data.
That's pretty clever. But once you've got your data,
Right.
whether it's real or synthetic, prepped, ready to go, what's the next step in this?
Well, that's where we dive into the world of hyperparameter tuning.
Hyperparameter tuning.
Imagine you're trying to find the perfect recipe
Okay.
for a dish.
Yeah.
You might experiment with different ingredient ratios,
Yeah.
cooking times,
Right.
oven temperatures, just to achieve that
Yeah.
desired outcome.
So you're saying these hyperparameters are like
Exactly.
the knobs and dials that control how the LLM learns.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Okay.
They determine things like the learning rate,
Okay.
batch size, number of epochs.
Okay.
Finding the right settings for these hyperparameters
Yeah.
is crucial for the LLM to learn effectively
Right.
and generalize well to new data.
Okay. I see the connection to fine-tuning a recipe now. Our source mentions two main methods for this hyperparameter:
Right.
search grid search,
Grid search.
and random search.
Random search.
Can you walk us through those?
Yeah, so grid search is like systematically testing every combination of ingredients in your recipe.
Okay.
You create this grid of all possible hyperparameter values,
Right.
and you test each combination one by one.
Oh, wow.
It's thorough,
Yeah.
but it can be computationally expensive,
Yeah.
especially when you have a lot of hyperparameters to tune.
So it's guaranteed to find the best combination.
Yeah, in theory.
But it might take a while.
It can take a while, yeah.
Okay, what about random search?
Random search takes a different approach.
Okay.
Instead of testing every single combination,
Yeah.
it randomly samples points in the hyperparameter space.
Interesting.
It might seem less systematic,
Yeah.
but it can be more efficient,
Okay.
especially if you have limited computational resources.
So it's a bit like throwing darts at a dartboard.
Kinda, yeah.
You might hit the bullseye with fewer throws.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is,
Oh.
random search often finds good solutions surprisingly quickly,
Interesting.
even without exhaustively searching
Wow.
every possibility.
That's fascinating. It
Yeah.
seems like choosing between these methods is this trade-off
It is, yeah.
between thoroughness and efficiency.
Right.
Are there any guidelines for deciding which approach is best?
Well, it really depends.
Yeah.
It depends on the complexity of the model,
Go ahead.
the number of hyperparameters you're dealing with,
Right.
your computational budget.
Okay.
If you have limited resources and time,
Yeah.
random search might be a good starting point.
Makes sense.
But if you need the absolute best performance and
Yeah.
you have the computational power to spare,
Okay.
grid search can be the way to go.
So it's all about finding the right balance for
Insert-
your specific situation. But even with the perfect hyperparameters,
Yeah.
there's still a chance things could go wrong, right?
Always.
I'm thinking of this concept our source mentioned, overfitting.
Overfitting.
It sounds like a trap you could fall into, even with
Yeah.
the best intentions.
It's a common problem.
Yeah.
It's like a student who memorizes all the answers for a test. Instead of truly understanding the material,
Yeah.
they might ace the test,
Right.
but they won't be able to apply their knowledge
Right, to new problems.
to new problems. Exactly.
So it's like the LLM is becoming too specialized
Right.
to the training data
Right.
and can't generalize to new
Information.
unseen information.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this can lead to all sorts of problems.
Okay.
The LLM might perform amazingly well
Yeah.
on the data it was trained on,
Right.
but fail miserably when you show it something new.
Oh, wow.
It's like a chatbot that can answer specific questions perfectly,
Right.
but stumbles when you ask it anything
Yeah.
slightly different.
So how do you know if your LLM is overfitting?
Wow.
Are there any warning signs to look out for?
One key indicator is this discrepancy
Okay.
between performance on the training data
Right.
and performance on a separate validation set.
Oh, interesting.
If the model's performance on the training data keeps getting better, but its performance on the validation set
Okay.
starts to decline, that's a big red flag,
Okay.
suggests that the model's becoming too tailored to the nuances
Yeah.
of that training data,
Yeah.
and it's losing its ability to generalize.
So it's like acing the practice test but bombing the real exam.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's why it's so important to monitor these
Mhm.
metrics closely and take steps
Yeah.
to prevent overfitting.
Speaking of steps, our source mentioned some techniques to combat
Right.
overfitting. Can you walk us through those?
Yeah, sure.
What are some of the tools in the LLM trainer's
Great.
arsenal to prevent this from happening?
One common technique is called early stopping.
Early stopping.
Imagine you're training an athlete for a marathon.
Okay.
You wouldn't want them to push themselves
Right.
to the absolute limit every single day.
Yeah.
They risk burnout, injury.
Of course.
So similarly with early stopping,
Okay.
you monitor the model's performance on that validation set, and you stop the training process when you see that performance.
Okay.
Start to plateau or decline.
So it's like hitting the brakes before the LLM
Exactly.
pushes itself too hard and loses its ability
Right. You don't want it to overspecialize.
to generalize.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
You got to find that sweet spot.
Are there other strategies for tackling overfitting?
Another powerful technique is regularization.
Regularization.
Think of it like adding a bit of friction
Okay.
to the learning process.
Interesting.
It prevents the model from getting too focused
So, okay.
on any particular features in that training data,
Right.
and it encourages it to find more
Right.
general patterns.
So it's like adding a bit of chaos to the mix to make the LLM
Yeah, you could say that.
Like more robust?
More robust, yeah.
Interesting.
There are different methods of regularization,
Okay.
each with its own way of adding that friction.
Right.
But the goal is the same.
Right, to prevent overfitting.
To present overfitting and improve that model's ability to generalize.
We've covered a lot of ground here, from fine-tuning
Yeah, weeks of
and
time.
data pre-processing
It's a lot to take in.
to hyperparameter optimization and the perils of overfitting.
It's a whole journey.
But even if we navigate all of those challenges successfully and have a well-trained LLM, there's still the issue of getting it to run smoothly.
Absolutely.
And quickly, especially when you've got lots of people.
Especially at scale.
Accessing it simultaneously.
This is where inference speed comes in.
Inference speed, yeah.
Right.
That's crucial.
Okay.
Refers to how fast the LLM can process new input and generate a response.
Right.
It's a critical factor in user experience.
Makes sense.
Imagine waiting minutes for a chatbot to answer a simple question.
Oh, it'd be so frustrating.
It'd be terrible.
Yeah.
So
how do we make these LLMs faster?
Well,
I'm intrigued by these techniques our source mentioned, model compression. And distillation. What are those all about? So think of model compression like creating a travel-size version of a product. You're retaining the essentials, but in a smaller, more compact package. This can significantly reduce the model size and make it run faster without sacrificing too much performance.
So it's like slimming down the LLM without losing its intelligence.
That's a good way to think about it, yeah.
What are some of the techniques involved in this compression process?
One technique is called pruning.
Pruning.
It's like trimming the fat off the model, removing connections or parameters that aren't essential for its core functionality.
So it's like finding the most efficient pathways within the LLM's neural
You could think of it that way.
network.
Yeah, okay.
This makes the model smaller, faster,
Yeah.
without significantly impacting its performance.
What other tricks do they have up their sleeves for making these models?
Another fascinating technique is quantization.
Quantization.
Yeah, so instead of using high-precision numbers
to represent the model's parameters,
Right.
you use lower precision numbers.
Interesting.
It's like using fewer bits to store the same information. Makes the model more compact, faster to process.
So it's like finding a more compressed way to encode the LLM's knowledge without losing its essence.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see a theme here, making things smaller.
Yeah, efficiency is key.
Leaner, more efficient, without sacrificing core capabilities.
Yeah.
What about model distillation?
Model distillation.
That sounds intriguing.
It's like having a smaller, faster LLM learn from a larger, more complex one.
Interesting.
Imagine a master chef teaching their apprentice the tricks of the trade.
Yeah.
The apprentice might not have all the experience of the master, but they can learn the essential skills and techniques.
So the smaller LLM is like the apprentice soaking up the wisdom of a larger LLM. That's a fantastic analogy.
Yeah, it's a good way to visualize it.
It seems like there's a whole toolbox
There is.
of techniques for optimizing inference speed.
Yeah, it's an active area of research.
Even with the fastest, most streamlined LLM, there's still the challenge of deploying it at scale.
Deploying at scale, that's a whole other beast.
Right. I mean, how do you get these things to work reliably
That's the question.
when you have a ton of users accessing them simultaneously?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Deploying LLMs at scale is no small feat.
Right.
It's like running a bustling restaurant kitchen
Okay.
during peak hours.
Right.
You need systems in place
Yeah.
to manage orders, coordinate chefs,
Right.
make sure everything runs smoothly.
Even under pressure.
Even under pressure, exactly.
So it's not just about the LLM itself.
It's the whole ecosystem.
It's about the entire infrastructure.
The infrastructure surrounding it, yeah?
Surrounding it. Okay.
It's a big operation.
I'm starting to see the complexity here. What are some of the key tools that make this large-scale deployment possible?
So our source mentioned Docker.
Docker, yeah.
And Kubernetes.
And Kubernetes. Can you unpack those for us?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's start with Docker.
Okay.
Imagine you're packing for a trip.
Right.
And you want to make sure you have everything you need.
Yeah.
Organized neatly in your suitcase.
Right.
Docker's like that suitcase for LLMs.
Okay.
It allows you to package the model, its dependencies, everything it needs to run into this self-contained unit called a container.
Okay.
This ensures that the LLM runs consistently no matter where it's deployed.
So it's like creating a portable LLM environment.
The portable environment, exactly.
That can be easily moved and deployed anywhere.
That's the idea.
I'm seeing the appeal of that. But what about Kubernetes?
Kubernetes.
How does it fit into this picture?
Kubernetes takes things to the next level.
Okay.
It's like having a conductor orchestrating a symphony of LLM containers.
Orchestration, it sounds very grand. What does that mean?
So think of Kubernetes as the maestro, ensuring that all the LLM containers are playing in harmony.
Right.
It handles things like load balancing, distributing incoming requests across multiple instances to prevent any single instance from getting overwhelmed.
So it's like a traffic cop.
Yeah.
Directing the flow of requests.
Exactly.
To ensure smooth sailing.
Smooth sailing, yeah.
I'm starting to see how Kubernetes keeps everything running smoothly.
It's the behind-the-scenes hero.
Behind the scenes.
Keeping everything in sync.
And it goes beyond just traffic management.
Right.
Kubernetes also ensures fault tolerance.
Fault tolerance, crucial.
If one LLM instance crashes or encounters an error, Kubernetes can automatically spin up a new instance.
It's amazing.
To take its place, ensuring uninterrupted service.
Right, no downtime.
Wow, it's like having a self-healing system.
You could say
for LLM deployment. That's incredible.
That's pretty remarkable.
And I imagine this becomes even more crucial as the number of users.
Absolutely.
And the complexity of the LLM applications grow.
As things scale up, it becomes essential.
This has been an incredible journey so far.
You've covered a lot.
We've covered so much ground, from the intricacies of
a lot of ground.
Fine-tuning and data pre-processing to the challenges of optimizing inference speed.
Yeah, it's a complex landscape.
And deploying LLMs at scale.
But fascinating, right?
It really is. It is fascinating.
It is.
We'll be back in just a moment to delve deeper into this fascinating world of LLMs.
Looking forward to it.
Stay tuned.
Stay with us.
Welcome back, folks. You know, as we're unpacking these LLMs, I'm realizing that speed and efficiency aren't just about making things zippy for the user.
It's bigger than that.
There's a whole economic angle to this too, right?
Oh, absolutely. When you're talking about running these massive models, especially at scale, the computational costs can be significant.
Yeah, of course.
So optimizing inference speed isn't just about user experience. It's about making these technologies economically viable.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Faster processing means lower energy consumption.
Exactly.
Less strain on computing resources, which translates to cost savings.
It all ties together.
It's fascinating how all these factors are intertwined.
It really is.
Yeah, and it highlights the just incredible engineering effort that goes into making LLMs practical and accessible.
It's a huge undertaking.
Speaking of practical and accessible, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the real-world applications of these models.
Real world,
We've been focusing on the technical nuts and bolts.
The nitty-gritty.
But I'm eager to explore how LLMs are actually being used out there in the wild.
Well, one area where LLMs are making a huge impact is in natural language processing tasks. You know, things like machine translation, where you need to translate text from one language to another. LLMs have become incredibly good at this.
Really?
Produced in translations that are often indistinguishable from human translations.
So that online translator I've been using might actually be powered by an LLM.
It very well could be.
Behind the scenes.
It's quite possible.
Wow, and the applications go far beyond just translation. LLMs are being used for things like text summarization.
Text summarization.
Where you need to condense a large document into a concise summary. And question answering, where you can ask the LLM a question.
Question answering.
And get a relevant answer extracted from this.
It's pretty amazing.
Vast database of information.
It's like having access to.
It sounds incredibly powerful.
It is.
I can see how LLMs could revolutionize fields like research.
Absolutely.
Education.
Education, definitely.
And customer service.
Customer service,
Wow. Well, what about creative applications?
Creative applications,
Can these models be used for things like writing stories? Or composing music?
That's one of the most exciting areas of LLM development. We're seeing LLMs being used to generate all sorts of creative content.
Like what?
Poems, screenplays, musical compositions.
Wow.
Even code.
Wait, code?
Yeah.
You're saying LLMs can write computer programs now?
It's still early days.
Right.
but the results are pretty impressive.
Wow.
LLMs can be trained on these massive data sets of code and learn to generate new code that follows specific patterns and solves particular problems.
That's wild.
It's like having an AI assistant that can help you with your coding tasks.
That's mind-blowing.
It's pretty remarkable.
It seems like the possibilities are endless.
It does seem that way.
But with all this power comes great responsibility.
Absolutely.
Right.
You got to be careful.
There must be ethical considerations to think about as LLMs become more sophisticated and integrated into our lives.
Ethical considerations are paramount.
Okay. What are some of the key ethical considerations that come to mind?
Well, one major concern is bias.
Bias.
You know, LLMs are trained on these massive data sets of text and code.
Yeah.
And if those data sets reflect existing biases in society, the LLM might perpetuate those biases or even amplify them in its outputs.
So it's like the old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
If you feed the LLM biased data, you'll get biased outputs.
That's the risk.
And this is a serious issue because LLMs are increasingly being used in these sensitive areas.
Right. High-stakes situations.
Like hiring.
Hiring, loan application. Even criminal justice.
Wow.
So if these models are making biased decisions, it could have real-world consequences.
Real-world consequences,
to people's lives.
That's a sobering thought.
It is, yeah.
What steps can be taken to address this issue of bias?
Well, there's a lot of research being done on developing techniques to mitigate bias. In LLMs, one approach is to carefully curate the training data, making sure it's diverse, representative of different perspectives. Another approach is to develop algorithms that can actually detect and correct bias in the model's outputs.
So it's a combination of data quality control and algorithmic fairness measures.
Exactly. It's an ongoing area of research. And it's crucial that we address these ethical considerations as LLMs become more powerful and pervasive.
Another potential concern is the impact of LLMs on jobs.
Jobs, yeah.
Some people worry that as these models become more capable, they could automate tasks that are currently done by humans. Leading to job displacement?
Job displacement. Yeah, it's a valid concern. It's something we need to be prepared for.
Of course.
However, it's important to remember that throughout history, technological advancements have often led to new industries and job opportunities. It's not necessarily a zero-sum game.
So there's potential for LLMs to create new jobs as well as displace existing ones.
That's right.
Okay.
Think about the early days of the internet. Many people feared that it would lead to massive job losses. And while there were certainly some disruptions, the internet ultimately created countless new industries and jobs that we couldn't have imagined before.
That's like the classic example of the automobile industry, replacing horse-drawn carriages.
Exactly.
It led to job losses in one area.
In the carriage industry, sure.
But it also created this whole new ecosystem.
New ecosystem, yeah.
Of jobs in manufacturing.
Manufacturing, repair, transportation.
Transportation,
Yeah, it shifted things.
The key is to be prepared for these shifts.
Right.
And to invest in education and training programs.
Education is key.
That help people adapt.
Adapt to the changing landscape.
To the changing job market.
Yeah.
So rather than fearing LLMs as job-stealing robots, we should view them as potential collaborators.
Collaborators, I like that.
Tools that can augment human capabilities.
Yeah.
And free us up to focus on more creative and fulfilling
or meaningful work
tasks.
That's
a great way to think about it.
I think so.
LLMs have the potential to be these incredible tools.
We do.
For good.
For good, yeah.
But it's up to us to ensure that they're used ethically.
It's our responsibility.
And responsibly.
Absolutely.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today.
A lot of ground.
From the technical intricacies of LLM training to the broader societal and ethical
the big picture
implications of these powerful models.
It's a lot to consider.
It's been a fascinating exploration.
It has, yeah.
And as LLMs continue to evolve at this incredible pace,
they're moving fast.
The conversation around their impact on society is only going to become more important.
More important than ever.
We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up this deep dive
into
the world of LLMs.
Sounds good.
Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring these LLMs from all angles.
Yeah.
And I'm struck by how quickly They've gone from like a techie niche to something that's impacting our daily lives.
Absolutely. It's amazing.
It's like they've snuck up on us.
They have. They've crept into everything.
Yeah, and one area where that impact is becoming increasingly clear is in the realm of education.
Education.
LLMs are starting to change how we learn and teach.
How we learn and how we teach, for sure.
Offering incredible opportunities, but also some potential challenges.
There's always two sides to the coin.
I can already imagine students using LLMs as like supercharged study buddies.
Oh, absolutely.
But what about the teachers?
Yeah.
How are LLMs changing their role in the classroom?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You know, some educators see LLMs as these powerful tools for personalized learning.
Yeah.
Imagine an LLM that can tailor lessons to each student's individual needs and learning style. That can really revolutionize how we approach education.
It's like having a personal tutor for every student.
Exactly.
Available 24/7. That's amazing.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah. But I can also see potential downsides.
Yeah, of course.
What about concerns about students becoming overly reliant on LLMs?
Right.
Or even using them to cheat?
Those are valid concerns, definitely. And it's something that educators and policymakers are grappling with right now.
Yeah.
It's not about replacing teachers with LLMs.
Right.
It's about finding ways to integrate these tools effectively and ethically
into the learning process.
Exactly.
So it's about finding the right balance.
It's all about balance.
Harnessing the power of LLMs while ensuring that students
are
still developing those critical thinking skills.
Critical thinking is crucial.
And a genuine understanding of the material.
Couldn't agree more.
And this brings up another important point. This need for digital literacy in the age of LLMs.
Digital literacy.
As these models become more sophisticated,
Yeah.
it's crucial that students learn how to interact with them critically, understand their limitations, and discern reliable information from potential misinformation.
You gotta be discerning.
Like, we need a whole new set of skills.
We do, yeah.
For navigating this LLM-powered world.
It's a new world out there.
Being able to evaluate the information they generate.
Right.
Understand their biases and use them responsibly. And this goes beyond just students.
It does.
As LLMs become more integrated into various aspects of society,
yeah, they're everywhere.
We all need to develop this deeper understanding of how they work. Their potential benefits.
And risks.
And their potential risks.
Absolutely.
It's like we're all becoming LLM explorers.
I like
navigating this new frontier.
It's a new frontier for sure.
Figuring out how to make the most of these powerful tools while staying mindful of their limitations.
It's a delicate balance.
Yeah. And I think one of the most important things to remember is that LLMs are not a replacement for human intelligence or creativity.
Yeah, they're tools.
They're tools that can augment our abilities.
Augment. I like that word.
Help us process information.
More efficiently. Yeah.
And even inspire new ideas.
Absolutely.
But ultimately, it's up to us.
It's up to us.
To guide their development and ensure they're used for good.
Couldn't agree more.
What a thought-provoking journey this has been.
It has been, yeah.
We've gone from unpacking the inner workings of LLMs to exploring their real-world applications.
Real-world impact.
And grappling with their ethical
the big questions.
Implications.
It's been quite a ride.
It's clear that these models are here to stay.
And they're here to stay.
And they have the potential to reshape our world in some really profound ways.
It's an exciting time.
It's been an absolute pleasure diving deep into this topic with you.
The pleasure was all mine.
And as we conclude this deep dive,
I
hope our listeners walk away with a sense of wonder.
Wonder.
A thirst for knowledge.
Keep learning.
And a commitment to using these powerful tools responsibly and ethically.
Absolutely.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining us on this incredible adventure into the world of LLMs.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be back next time with another deep dive into a fascinating topic.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, stay curious.